have never desired your good opinion.
People fear what they do not understand.
I have a headache, a badge, and a gun.
Power is yours.
Behave. I was just trying to start a conversation.
And share the wonders I've seen.
Hi, and welcome to The Wonders I've Seen, where there's no such thing as weird or normal, there's just different. I'm your host, Tanagra. Today we'll be discussing Kakegurui in all its forms. I'm joined by our guest, Hikazio, aka Hiko. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Tanagra. Glad to be here.
I'm happy to have you here. So, what's your liquid nourishment for the morning?
Today I have some water and a cup of coffee.
All right, staying hydrated. I have some water and some delicious imperial tea, which could be problematic, but I didn't name it. All right, let's get into it. So sit back and enjoy the wonders. All right, Kakegurui. I love it. You seemed to enjoy it a lot.
Oh, yeah. That's sort of an understatement, right?
Yeah, which is why we're doing this. Like, you were sort of the perfect person to talk about it with, and I actually didn't have a lot of people to discuss it with.
Right.
Yeah, I don't really know why. I mean, I think it's a great anime, but it definitely seems to have a niche audience, or niche fan base, rather.
Mm-hmm. So, funny enough, I think when I first got into it, I actually didn't get into it myself. Somebody recommended it to me.
Interesting.
So when they recommended it, they told me it was a very horny, gambling high school girl anime on Netflix.
Yeah.
And I think Netflix itself kind of has like a certain reputation of not being the greatest source for anime.
Very true.
Right, because it's so Western audience based.
Yes.
And so I kind of went into it like not sure if it's gonna be good.
AKA low standards.
Right. But I had some faith in her tastes, and when I watched it, she just told me, just watch it. You don't go into it with any expectations. Just watch it.
Yeah.
And when I did, I was really surprised by how good it was.
No, that's awesome. I think I watched. So Kakegurui actually came up for me in my suggestions after watching A Devil May Cry, or Devil
Man Crybaby.
Devil Man Crybaby, right? Which I could sort of see why, because they're sort of both over the top, slightly in the area of grotesque visual art.
Right.
But at the same time, I don't see any relationship between the two besides like their anime, right? Like that's sort of it. And then I know I was watching it and I was like, yeah, I'm watching this thing and I told you about it. And I was like, it's a lot, but I think I'm going to like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Netflix isn't very trustworthy on anime, but on this, they actually did not steer me wrong.
Yeah. I think they've been doing a pretty good job lately at pushing just kind of like new sort of animes, not like your typical formulaic anime, but
Very
things
true.
that kind of like push the boundaries with, just more taboo topics, I think. Right. Especially like sex and empowerment and stuff like that. Yeah.
Completely. So yeah, going back to your friend's description of horny, gambling, teenage females at a private school, you know, to summarize her description, what about that caught your attention? And was like, I should watch this. And then did the show live up to it?
So honestly, it didn't at first. Nothing about it made me like it. Because, like just in general, anime has this rap of like, it's either like deep and philosophical, or it's very fan servicey, right?
Yeah, very much so.
And so I actually thought going into it, it's just going to be pure fan service. I was like,
oh, okay.
There's nothing redeeming about this. This is everything I've already seen before.
That's fair.
Right. But I tend to give things a chance. Just if it's a recommendation, especially from people I trust.
Right.
I will try it at least once. And the first episode right away just like hooked me and it blew me away. So that's what got me into it. It was just the recommendation. It wasn't anything else. Yeah.
So what was it about the first episode that was like, I'm here for this? I mean, because there's a lot thrown at you in the first episode. Because I agree, the opening sequence is very fan servicey with like the slight under the skirt, right? Like while she's walking away and dancing, you're like, what the fuck is going on here?
Right.
And then it starts and you're like, oh, okay, now there's like a BDS element and they're in high school.
Right.
And they all have a bunch of money. But so what about that first episode was like, oh damn, I'm here for this? Like, was it all the female characters? Was it the hedonism of it? What was it?
I would say you're right. Like straight from the get-go, there was so much fan service in that opening scene itself.
Yeah.
But I guess kind of, it was so well done. Like the animation itself, it's very superficial at first. Like my interest in it was like, oh man, the animation quality is so amazing. But then the more you watch it, it was just so hedonistic, and it didn't take itself seriously. That's what I liked about it. It was fan service, but it was so over the top that the creators thought like, here's the typical fan service stuff. We're just gonna make it even more ridiculous,
right?
And when they crossed that line into kind of this oddity, into like the absurd. It was so much. It felt less like fan service and more like they were embracing it. Almost, yeah. I
definitely agree. I feel like it sort of becomes almost like a commentary in and of itself, and then I no longer feel like I'm watching the fan service, but like, oh, what are you trying to say with this? Yeah. For me, I think it was the moment when they're doing the first gambling and her eyes, Yumiko's eyes, all of a sudden start glowing red. Yeah. And I was like, what the fuck is happening? Like, this is like a Vampire Hunter D, like red eye glowing, but she's like, I'm doing it for gambling. And I was like, creepy, but cool, but maybe that's what I should be feeling, because it's teenagers gambling away all this money and ultimately their freedom, because they could end up as puppies or cats. So I should be uncomfortable with this, but at the same time I'm fascinated by watching like this intense need to like gamble away and risk everything. Right. Yeah, and you're like, oh, okay. And all of a sudden I was just like, I was in it. Right. Like, what else are you gonna throw at me?
Right. You know, the part with the red eyes, but also their facial expressions.
So extreme,
right? And it's not like, it's not pure fan service, because their faces are not cute or sexy. Yes, it's what your faces look like. Exactly. Like right, they're real expressions. Yeah, right? Yeah.
No, that's so true. Because like everybody's so cutesy, and then all of a sudden they have that extreme emotion, and you're like, oh, that's not pretty to look at. Right. But it's also more accurate, because when your face is contorted by something, right? Like it's contorted. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I really like the kind of attention to the realism. They don't try to like fluffy, try to put fluff into it, make women's like, I mean, it was like a commentary on, female masturbation too, right? And orgasm, and their faces just were so real. Oh, yeah. Like we discussed this before, that the idea that even though there is sex presented in the show, right, that it's a female character who's ultimately like masturbating to another female character, not because like, oh, she's pretty, but because she's like powerful and knowledgeable. It was just like this whole new like, anime went there. Like that's what it felt like. Like it was, and even though there's a male character there, a potential male love interest, which I have not read the manga like you have, so I'm just going to assume that he is not going to be a male love interest, because I don't want that, and obviously she should be matched up with somebody else who's more on her level. But anyway, that's a whole other topic. Like, yeah, I love the fact that it was like women exploring their sexuality based on being attracted to powerful women. No, for sure. Yeah. And I thought that was amazing. Yeah, the sheer amount of female characters, and the fact that there's really only 2 male characters that we're focused on. And that's right, there is the second male. Yeah, see, there is a second male. Yeah, that is true. But even their characters, eventually they get defeated sort of by the female characters. Yeah, and I really like that. Though I wonder what the series could have been had the male characters not been in there at all, and why they even included male characters into the series, and whether if it was necessary or not. I often wonder that. What do you think the series would have been like without the male characters? Because I have my own thoughts, but I'm interested to hear yours. I actually sort of like the lead main character. The lead, he's not really a lead, but no, he's not even like tertiary. Like he is. Right. In my mind, I call him Puppy, because I don't remember his name. Me neither, right? And I enjoy that. And I enjoy that he's so much in the shadows, kind of like how most female characters are in other series. Definitely. I would kind of equate him to like Chris Hemsworth's character in Ghostbusters, how he played like the secretary role, sometimes the comic relief, but never. Oh, you're cute. Right, exactly. Like, yeah. So I really appreciate but never the lead. Never the lead, never in the spotlight. Yeah. It was mainly focused on Yumiko and her entourage, right? Yeah. So I really appreciated that. I also think like
his character in itself is a commentary as well. Like I think the author just like took the formula and kind of flipped it. And that's what it felt like to me personally anyway. I know a lot of people would argue that he is unnecessary.
Unnecessary?
Yeah, a lot of people will say that he is an unnecessary character and that he's only there to provide like romantic interest for Yumiko. But I'm not so sure about that, honestly, yeah.
But I also think that even if somebody's saying that he's unnecessary and he's only there to provide a romantic interest, that's very much usually the female character in anime, right? So I think even then it still sort of is a statement in and of itself. Because I do think he's sort of unnecessary. Once again, this is coming from me only watching the first season of the anime, season 2 out January 2019 on Netflix, so we can rediscuss. But I think there's nothing wrong with that if that is the position he's supposed to take. Because usually that is where the women are, versus in this, like almost every student council member, the people in power, all women except this one random male. And then you find out that his whole idea of power is based around the idea that this woman is ultimately, or this girl is in love with him. And then she's like, actually, you haven't been manipulating me. I've been manipulating you. And then he literally breaks.
Yeah.
He breaks when he realizes he doesn't have that power that he thought he did. Right? And so, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong to have a useless male character.
Yeah,
I think it's
definitely.
a commentary of itself.
Yeah.
Like, I like the idea if he's just there to be like, oh, Yumiko, I'm so in love with you. And she's like, yeah, great. But like, president over there, mad hot with the blue lipstick going on.
Right. I think having the male character kind of makes it more real, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
I think had they made it an all-female school, it would have seemed more ideal, right?
Yes.
But taking the male characters and putting it in there, it makes it more reflective of actual society.
Completely.
Right? And it makes the fantasy seem like more achievable almost.
Yeah,
because
I would
you're
agree.
putting it into the context of male and women, male and female being in the same place,
right,
in the same space. And I really like that. Yeah.
No, actually, I think that's a really good way to put it, because if it would have just been women where you're like, oh, of course all the people in power are going to be women, that's the only option.
Right.
Versus you have this like co-ed school and all the people in power, all the best gamblers are still women.
Yes.
Like, I definitely think that's a statement. And particularly, I'm not quite as familiar with like how professional gambling or particularly poker is in Japan, but in the United States, like anytime you watch a poker championship, it's usually mostly men. Yeah. And then if there's a woman, she has a title like the Black Widow or some shit like that. Right? Yeah. So like this is definitely a nice change to see. Like, no, women can be critical thinkers and like have poker faces and fuck you over just the same that men can.
Right.
Yeah.
So
no,
actually,
I definitely agree with that. It's a statement that they're co-ed and they're still in power.
Exactly. And I really appreciate that. It doesn't have to be like an Amazonian
right
thing.
for women to be in control.
Right.
Yeah.
They can have control in the given environment that they're in with males in it too. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and they weren't afraid to show you that, men could be dominated, and it was quite nice.
Yeah, I like that. I liked that aspect, but it was also very jarring because, like I said, that first episode, you're like, she's going to a new school. Oh, they're all gambling. Oh, there's a BDSM aspect. Oh, like, her eyes are now glowing like she's a supernatural creature. Oh, like, all right. Like, I think out of all those, probably the BDSM aspect of like the puppy was the most like, wait, they're high school students. Like, that was what my mind did.
Yeah.
I think even if they would have been like older, it wouldn't have been so jarring. But that probably also is a generational thing, because I don't think it's high school students as sexually active, but I know they are. Right. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So like, yeah, that aspect of it.
I think anime tends to get like, maybe a Japan-US cultural difference, but I do know that I feel like a lot of the things that we explore in college is kind of equivalent to what they think they explore in high school.
Right.
And so a lot of like their subject matter is kind of brought down to a high school level. And I wonder if it's because of their audience, or it's just like Japan likes to focus on high schools.
That's
as being
fair.
A place that everyone is stuck together and all that. It makes a great setting.
It does.
Right. But I definitely think, because we think high school, it becomes jarring, right?
Right.
When we can probably like kind of make an analogy to our colleges, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, not to say though that U.S. high school students aren't running around and like being sexually active, and I think we even see that in depictions of high school on television. But even then, it's like, and then they have sex off camera, right? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or if they have it on camera, it's set in a very palpable way.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing like jarring about the presentation of sexuality in high schoolers in the US media versus like, and maybe because also it is anime, right? It's not live action kids actually acting out those scenes.
Right.
It's also, you have a bit more flexibility and, you know, like you're saying, you can be a bit more real about what you're presenting.
Right.
Because you don't have that, oh, well, these are underage kids, they can't do A, B, C, D.
Right. Which I think brings up a great point. There is a live action that came out.
Yes.
And I haven't watched it yet.
I have only watched the first 2 episodes.
All right.
It's very Japanese. I don't know a way to put it. Like I've watched different dramas from like the same drama be adapted right into the Taiwanese version, then into the Chinese version, the Japanese version, and then the Korean version.
Right.
And they're all very different. And there's something very fantastical about Japanese adaptations of animes and mangas, whether or not it's intentional. I think it's just a style. And so it's very interesting that like the realism that you get through the absurdity of the anime turns into like a magical realism in the live action.
Right.
It seems almost out of place, but it works so well in the anime.
Yeah.
But it seems almost out of place in the live action. And once again, I'm only 2 episodes in, so I've seen the initial scene where she does where her eyes initially go red and they introduce Puppy for the first time.
Right.
So I've seen that scene, and it requires a lot more suspension of disbelief in order to follow it.
Right.
I
mean, right, and it's like trying to balance that like realism and anime and
exactly.
Well, you were talking about the fact that they are high school students and underage, and sometimes like I worry in a way that like they are. Once they do a live action, they're real people.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that kind of becomes an issue when they're showing so much sex or, you know what I mean?
Right.
Or like sexual content.
Yeah.
With actual like kids or like these actresses who are supposed to represent high school students.
Precisely.
And I'm sure the culture is different in Japan.
Well, I mean, Japan didn't even have child pornography for the longest time. And there's still grabber models who are like, you know, literally children.
Right.
So like the culture with sex is very different, but yeah, I do think that definitely can be. I think that's an issue.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten to what's her name, Madari yet in the live action. I mean, like she literally masturbates on camera, right, to photos of Yumiko. Yeah. So I haven't gotten there. Like I've seen rape scenes before in Japanese live action because it's a very unfortunately popular trope where like female being raped by a group of men, somebody comes along and saves her, and then she falls into hero worship. I've seen those, so I know how that plays out. But like actual masturbation by a female about another female, I have not gotten there, and I'm interested to see how that's adapted to live action.
Yeah, I'm actually interested in how they would actually show that.
Or did they just cut it out?
I wonder. Like I think we would have to watch it to figure it out. But yeah, it's curious, and I feel like especially in Japan they would have to really teeter on that line. It's not. I mean, I guess it is. It's distributed by Netflix, right? It's on Netflix only, or is it on? Yeah. So maybe they actually do show it because it's Netflix and it's a Western kind of audience and all that.
But I don't think it was produced by Netflix.
Oh, it wasn't.
I know. It's just that Netflix has the rights to Kakegurui.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So it was made in Japan. It's being distributed here by Netflix.
That makes more sense.
So that's why I'm wondering if they just might have cut it out. I mean, if they showed it, I'm going to be like, dang, okay, Japan's making a statement. I can, with like the Kakegurui. Yeah.
Right.
So.
Man, I've actually wanted to ask you, since you have watched the entire anime, and you have a lot of commentary, like, I have some ideas on whether it is feminist or not, but the big F word. But do you actually think Kakegurui is feminist?
I do.
Yeah.
And I think it's feminist, not just because it's all a predominantly female cast, but because it shows women in every aspect. It shows like the cute female. It shows, you know, like, and I mean every aspect, not just in the physical representations, but also in the personality representations and their motivations and how far they're willing to go. And I think I particularly like it because it shows women in power and striving for power, and no matter like what you look like, no matter what your methods are, like how far you're willing to go, where your lines are in order to achieve that.
Right.
Because even though all these women, they're not necessarily like number one, they're ultimately still at the top of what they're doing, right? Which is in this universe, right, of the world is everything for them. You know, there's that scene where they talk about if Karari doesn't like meet her debt, then she's gonna have to go on and marry this man and become the perfect wife. And she's like, no.
Mary.
Thank you.
The yellow hair one, right?
Yeah, the yellow haired one.
Blondie, yeah.
Right. And she was like, I don't want to do that. And it's not like she's like raging against the idea of like getting married and having to do that. It's like I should be able to choose if I want to do that.
I love that.
I thought it was excellent. Yeah. Like they included that. Like, yeah, sure. We're looking at it like, oh, these high schoolers gambling away their parents' money. But it's more than that. It's their future. It's what they're going to do with it, what it represents, how will they do in high school.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of, like I said before, it was like an exercise of will, right? And giving the power to the women to make decisions and, you know, press their power onto others and actually make a difference in their life. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. I think, though, the counter argument that I've been hearing a lot actually from women who have watched Kakegurui is that because it's so sexual, right, and because there are men who still view Kakegurui as fan service, there are men who kind of like love that there's so much like sexuality in it, and actually like, you know, almost fetishize it. That's why they don't view it as feminist, because it's still male gaze oriented. I don't know how you feel about that. I generally think
No, you generally think what? And then I'll share my thoughts.
Yeah, it's very... Yes, it is male gaze, and there is sexual elements to it.
Yeah.
But I think lately there's been this push towards series being pure. Like as if women need to... The only feminist conversation we can have are things that are deeply philosophical or, you know, very romantic.
Exactly.
Right. It can't be fun. It can't be, you know, lighthearted. It can't be, you know, all that. Yeah. It has to be a certain pure, deep, and poetic.
Yes. Yeah. That's a really good way to put it. Like almost like, pure, deep, and poetic. Yeah. Very true. Like this philosopher says this about feminism, and therefore let's read their thesis and discuss it.
Right.
Yeah. And I don't believe in that because that's not how my feminism manifests. I don't sit around and read about a bunch of traditional feminism. Like, you know what? Now that I have read Bell Hooks, I am woman. Like, that's not what happens to me, because I feel like when I go out into the world, I have to be whoever I am and work ultimately, like, live up to whatever standard of feminism I set for myself.
Right.
And I think that every woman has to do that. So I don't think, though, that I feel for me, somebody being like, oh, just because it's male gazy and men fetishize it means that it's less feminism is bullshit to me, because men look at me and fetishize me, and that doesn't make me less of a feminist.
Exactly.
That's his issue, and he needs to like educate himself. Right. So for me, Kakegurui, no, that's one reason why I love the fact that the sexuality is so much women who are turned on by women, and specifically very strong women. Like she directly was like, oh my God, she's so capable. I love it. And like is turned on about her. That is the part of it that I think crosses it from being like just male gazy to actually being feminist for me. Because if it was her like then going out and making out with her and like there's certain shots, we all know what they look like, right? Like we're women. We know how we are displayed, both whether it's in drawing, whether it's in like film, whether it's television, like we know what it means to be male gazy. And I think Kakegurui breaks that, and the fact that the sexuality is between women for women, and also like you're saying before about like the grotesque features. Like, yeah, somebody's really cute, and all the characters are, like, with the exception of Midari, are very traditionally attractive. But then when that passion hits, whether it's a passion for power or for winning, or when they're really sad, all of a sudden they're just these, like, their faces are contorted, and it's just so real, and it's not pretty. There's no fucking pretty crying.
Right, exactly,
like, there's no pretty crying in Kakegurui. You're crying, you're gonna look like shit. You're mad, you're gonna look angry. And I think for me, that takes it out of that male gaziness. I think the sexuality adds a nice element to it, because I think you can't ignore sexuality. But yeah, I don't think it's necessary. that it actually upsets me when people think like you have to go to one extreme or the other.
Right.
Like, I don't need to go around like nude in the street for you to see that I'm a woman, but I also don't need to like ignore my own sexuality and be like, I shall cover up now so that the men don't look at me. No, fuck that. Men look the other way.
So I will dress conservatively.
Right.
You know,
no.
I don't believe in that.
They should turn around and look the other way.
Exactly.
Like, fuck them. It's my space too.
Yeah. I mean, so I'm an artist, right? And so I'm part of a lot of
course.
artist community.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also a queer woman.
Yes.
And so I love that Kakegurui shows different types of sexual attraction to women as well.
Completely.
There is physical attraction, but there's also like attraction to competence, attraction to intelligence. Like there's so many like attraction to ambition, right? And I love that. And I think a lot of the issues that I have with the current artist community, especially like women who draw queer women, is that they don't show any of that. They like to keep it very like, you know, like one body type, like two thin, beautiful lesbian women together. And they'll go out for coffee and link arms and walk through the flower field, you know. But there's nothing like I'm not going to negate that they exist,
of
right?
course.
They do exist. But there's so many other kind of queer women that exist out there. And the idea that like once they're sexual, they're not feminist. It's just so odd to me to think that, right?
No, definitely. Or the idea that once somebody sees that and sexualize it, then that makes it less feminist.
Yeah.
Like, I live my life. These characters are who these characters are. If somebody looks at a loving couple and is like, man, that's hot and I want to jack off to it, obviously I'm talking about a male.
Yeah.
Then like that's their thing. But that doesn't make what the characters stand for or the art any less feminist.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the interpreter's issue. That's
Precisely.
not necessarily the creator's issue, right?
No, not at all. Like,
definitely.
I could see that being frustrating as a creator.
Mm-hmm.
If you're trying to achieve a very specific vision with your art and somebody else is doing something with it. But ultimately that's what happens when you put your art out there.
Mm-hmm.
Like even when you speak, even like us doing this podcast, we could say something, and if somebody hears what we're saying now is anti-feminist, we can't do anything about it except like, well, we can discuss it, we can talk to them about it, but ultimately that's all you can do. You don't really have much control over that.
Right.
You control what you put out there, but what you get back is what you get back.
Right. And God bless the creators for creating these women who are like different body types too, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm getting very like, I get so tired like of seeing the same type of lesbian art on the internet that, you know, circulate.
Oh, completely.
Because it's an aesthetic. As if like, you know, as if queer women are just to look good together rather than actually be good together, right?
Oh, well said. Well said.
Yeah. And so, you know, the whole Yumiko and Kirari, the president, their relationship is so like, and a lot of people will say they're toxic, you know, and people will say,
"Oh wait, why? I love them. I ship them wholeheartedly."
Right? And they connect on such a deep level, right? And on an ambitious level. But people will say it's toxic because they're complex, because they have issues.
But that's, I think, what makes most good relationships.
Right.
Like, there needs to be some level of complexity. I like their relationship because it's not just like I feel like the school president is constantly like challenging Yumiko. And I think that that's a good thing in a relationship, whether platonic or romantic.
Right.
That's what you want.
So you and I have a different view of what relationships are, right?
Precisely.
And we know that there's a lot of different relationships out there, right?
Right.
There's no one cookie cutter relationship that's healthy and non-toxic. But I think a lot of the people online, they don't realize that. They think that healthy relationship is one type of relationship, which is like purely supportive. Why create conflict amongst two characters, right? They think conflict equates to abuse, which is, I think, problematic in itself to think like that.
I would agree, actually, because I don't think you have to see everything eye to eye with your sicko.
Right.
I'm just like, I don't, and I can't say if it's an age thing, if it's maybe the media that I grew up on, that wasn't a thing, right? Like, as far as my queer representation, we're talking Xena. So, like, the idea that you always got along with your sicko was, like, Xena was all about interpersonal conflict. And so maybe that's also that difference, too. I mean, I'm not
like a
really.
generational
It's a
difference.
generational difference,
Right.
right? Or maybe it's just where I am in my life now.
Mhm.
Because I haven't actually done a lot of background reading on the creators of Kakegurui, so maybe that would show a little bit more, give me a little bit more insight rather into the creation of the characters.
Mhm.
But I just don't see that. I don't think that it should be conflict free. I do think that is definitely a generational thing. Just like, I mean, and I could say that also because I think about when Twilight was a big thing,
Mhm.
and so many, particularly younger people, thought that like, this is the perfect relationship. They're always together.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, this is abusive.
Right.
He snuck into her house and he's watching her and he's telling her what she can do.
Right.
That's abuse.
Yeah.
Being like, let's challenge each other is not abusive. That's good. Like, your partner should make you the best version of yourself.
Right.
And when I watch them, I'm like, that's what I want for y'all. Like, that's what I feel when I'm shipping. Like, Yumiko and, I'm sorry,
Kirara, the president.
Yumiko and Kirara. Yeah, that's what I feel like. They're gonna push each other to be better. Right? Like, they're gonna rule this school, and like Yumiko's gonna come in and be like, no more of this puppy dog cat thing, because like, this is stupid. We're just gonna gamble for fun and like the passion of it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's what I feel like.
On that note, I actually really love that she doesn't gamble to fix the system. She's not trying
Yumiko?
to.
Oh,
she doesn't
fuck
care.
no.
Yeah, she doesn't care about the whole cat
yeah.
dog system. You know, she's fine with it, but she breaks it as she goes.
Yes.
Because she does it for her own selfish reasons.
Right.
Yeah. She doesn't do it for like the greater good of the
Nope.
school. She doesn't think like there's a right way, wrong way. She
Nope.
knows her way.
Yes.
And I really love that.
I do too. Like, I really do. Like, I like the fact that she's just like, nah, I like to gamble.
Yeah.
Okay, she's not even like, I'm so good at it, I want to prove it. She's literally just like, I like to gamble.
Yeah, she likes
That's
the risk
it.
of it.
I like the risk of it. And I think it's a good representation of gambling addiction, very much so. I think it's a great representation of it. Like, oh yeah, every other time she seems really logical and she's thinking shit out and she can do A, B, C, and D, but when it comes to gambling, she's like, fuck it all.
Yeah.
We're throwing everything on the table and you're like, dude, that's really unhealthy. You should probably get some help with that. Right? And her eyes are glowing red. She's like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I like, they balance so much and they do it so well.
Right.
That's one of the reasons why I love it. Right. Yeah.
So like I watched a show and I definitely don't think like I want to go out and gamble. Right. Definitely. Like, I don't actually want to go to a casino and start gambling my entire savings.
Right.
But
and then rip off your nails.
Just like as payment, right? Like,
will you take these?
Oh gosh, no.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about it. It's like it was so over the top that you don't take the gambling aspect very seriously. I mean, I hope everyone got the same message that you shouldn't go out and gamble all your savings, but I thought it kind of gave a commentary to like living your life without the fear of, without having fear, like the consequences trap you, right?
Yeah.
That you're able to take the next step, even though the probability of your failure being high, but that they're pushing you to do it.
Yeah.
Right. The act of actually pressing your will onto the world and not fearing fate itself. Right.
But I like the fact that when they were on the stage with the accounting person and she's sitting there, Blondie, I think it's Mary, is like, I'm not certain about this, and like they're actually thinking about it and she's weighing the consequences, like, okay, if I do this, this is what I lose. If I don't do this, this is what I lose. And I think it's important at the same time that they're pushing, like, don't fear everything. Don't be stopped by your fears. At the same time, like, think about it.
Right.
And then if what you gain outweighs what you'll lose, then go for it.
Right.
Like, there's always this message of push as hard as you can, but think about it before you do. And I think Kakegurui does a really good job of balancing out like the extremes. And like, even though, they're like, go do it all, right? Like, don't be stopped by fear. It's also like, all right, you might think about it for a second. If you still think it's worth it, then fuck it all and go for it.
Right.
Like, know that when you're risking it, accept that you're taking that risk.
You know the episodes with the girl that was bullied by that guy? They were doing a team match. It was Mary and Yumiko on one team, and the bully guy, the rapist guy, He was just an awful guy, super abusive.
Not Rurika, right? Oh
I
man,
can't remember her name, but she was with that guy.
I loved that storyline.
Wasn't it so good? Like,
I didn't even understand the game, but I was.
Me too. I didn't understand the game, but I was watching it. Like, the things that the dialogue they bring up is so good.
Oh man. Oh, I'm trying.
You're trying to find the name.
Listeners, I'm trying to find her name right now. I loved that storyline.
Right. I think what I loved about it is that Yumiko never tells her what to do. She tells her it's her choice.
Yes.
Right? She gives her the options and tells her to think about it.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's exactly what you said. They were saying to think about your choices, think about the consequences of each choice, and then you make a decision on whether you want to do it or not. Right?
Right.
Did you ever find that name yet?
Oh man, I'm looking it up. Okay, I somehow ended up on a website that's comparing the anime characters to the live action versions. Okay, it's not. All right, y'all. Okay, yeah. I love you, fandom, but I really just need a basic website.
Yeah, I think she seemed like such a minor character that she's not on there, but I thought she had a huge impact on the series.
Yeah, I think you're right. She's not listed.
No.
I thought she had a huge impact as well. I thought like her entire like story arc was so important. You know?
Yeah. Back on the topic of what you said though, you were saying that they balanced it well.
I think I feel like yes, the balance of between like go for the extremes but also think about it before you do. I think it was done well.
So I actually think, on the other hand, that it wasn't so balanced. Actually,
in which way? Tell me.
So I actually think it's funny because Yumiko comes in, and I actually think Yumiko's character itself like almost represents existentialism.
Oh, okay. So we're getting into the philosophy now,
right?
let me drink my tea.
Yes.
Pinky up. Continue.
Right, and so yeah. I studied a lot of existentialism because I really got into it at the last few years of my college, time. But she comes into the school that has a structure with everybody who are so concerned about their life, their future, consequences, and all that stuff.
Right.
But let's say they're on a very high level for that. She comes in on the complete opposite side, and I think they meet in the middle at the end. I don't actually think they find a balance. I don't think Yumiko ever finds a balance. I think Mary, what's her name? The other girl, the one that works under the secretary guy.
Oh, yeah.
Itsuki.
Yeah, okay.
I think Mary and Itsuki find a balance, but I think Yumiko still remains as this wild card existentialist character who says, I don't think about the consequences at all. I think it brings a balance. She's almost like the devil, you know?
I would agree though.
Right.
Yeah. I know. I completely agree with that. I don't think the characters themselves find a balance. I think the show presents one. Like presents all the different outlooks. I don't feel that Yumiko, like at the end of it, I thought maybe Yumiko was going to replace the president. Not necessarily because like she's like, and now I will have a new reign. Just more like I want to do this same thing, but in a different way, right? So no, I don't think that she gets a balance here. I think Mary does, and then Itsuki
does, yeah, and
right. But
puppy finds
balance. Right,
well.
Puppy finds balance. Yes,
we're just gonna call him Puppy. He is not Puppy.
Yeah, Puppy finds balance, but ultimately, like I think the more powerful characters, the ones who are, in all honesty, more certain about who they are, right? Because I don't feel President ever shows any doubt in who she is. I don't feel that Yumiko ever shows any doubt in who she is. They are extremes, and they are fine with that, right? Like, and for the people who have forced themselves to go to these extremes to try and achieve these things, even if they don't necessarily achieve their goals, which I think Itsuki is really a good example of that. Like, she didn't want to do all this other shit, but she's like, you know what? I want to be on student council. Fine, I'm going to push myself. That's what I'm going to fight until I get there.
Right.
And then she doesn't get there, and she's like, all right, but I'm still the shit. And like that's her balance, you know.
I love that part, especially right before the guy gets defeated and faints.
Yeah.
She doesn't do it for the student council position.
No.
She does it purely out of emotion.
Exactly.
And she does it because she wants revenge.
Yeah.
And the fact that they showed these women embracing their emotions, getting retribution instead of swallowing their emotions, I thought that was so existentialist.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I will, you know what? I'll agree with you on that.
Right.
Because I also love the fact that she embraces that revenge, but then it ends and she's visiting him in the hospital.
Right.
So it's like, you don't have to be like, now that I want revenge, I'm somehow a bad person.
Right.
I'm somehow
just going to go
evil.
do whatever. Yeah.
Right. It's like, no, I needed this revenge. I got it. Okay.
Back to routine. Yeah.
Right.
I love that too.
Yeah, that's actually really true. It is very existential. I feel like you could definitely have like an entire philosophical conversation about all the different philosophies represented in Kakegurui.
Yeah. So, I could write an essay, honestly. Like, I could write a 10-page paper, but...
We'll be waiting for it and tweet it out when you do.
Thanks. But Kirari, on the one hand, I think the president represents an adherence to planning and fate.
Completely. And complete control.
Yes. Complete, utter control. And the fact that the school just breaks down because she's not there represents that, right?
Yes.
And so it was really interesting at the very last episode. We're allowed to talk about spoilers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So the very last episode, you have Kirari meeting Yumiko. And Kirari
finally.
Says, right. And you're like so excited for it because you're like, they're finally meeting. They're finally
God.
But she says, like, Kirari says, do you ever feel like we were fated to meet?
Yeah.
Right? And I thought that encompasses their kind of like opposite qualities. Yumiko, who lives solely to live day by day.
Right.
And Kirari, who had been planning to meet. It almost seemed like she was planning to meet Yumiko from the very beginning.
Yeah, definitely. I love that.
Right.
I love that. Like, part of me loves the first season so much that I don't want there to be a second season.
I agree.
Because it's done so well. It's also probably why I've had trouble like watching the live action, because I watch the live action, I'm like, nah, the anime was better. Right. I just want to go back and turn on, like, I'm like, stop, pause, go back over to the anime. Because it's done so well. Like, the visuals are done so well. The art is beautiful. Mm-hmm. Like, the voice acting is great. Like, there's never a moment where I don't feel like I'm consumed in watching this world, yet at the same time, I know very much that I'm a viewer. I'm not part of it. Right? Like, I have that nice safe distance from all these people and their extremes, you know? Like, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be able to, like, I'm going to have to read some reviews about season 2 when it comes out.
Do you mind if I talk about the manga at all? Are you okay with spoilers, or should we not?
How bad are the spoilers?
I mean, I will just talk about it like conceptually, right? I won't tell you any details.
Okay.
I think the first season of the Netflix series was kind of like, it was so well made, you're right, because it had a beginning and an end. Yeah. And I think they created this story arc, and it just finished off, it concluded perfectly with all the right themes being addressed, and it kind of goes in a circle, and it's very nice and encapsulated.
Very much so. Right. Yeah, well said.
The manga, though, it doesn't end, right? The manga just keeps going. There are arcs, but they never conclude the storyline. And so once you start reading more past the first season, which did a great job of, the parallels, they did a great job of it.
Okay.
But they start explaining the backstories of Kirari and her family and Yumiko Jabami's family as well.
Oh.
And so once they start explaining that, you're right. The kind of illusion that we have these themes start to shatter because they start putting more information into it that we didn't have in the first season.
That's interesting, because I don't really know if I think that that's necessary, because ultimately, like, if their entire world and their future is determined by what they do in high school, what they as individuals do in high school, right? Not saying that who they are isn't somehow influenced by their family, right? Because they talk about, well, your family has this much money, your family has this much money. But ultimately, all that matters is the money that comes from the family. So whether or not you're a good gambler, whether or not you're a good manipulator, whether or not you're on student council, is all dependent upon your skill. Right. Right? Like, even Puppy. If Puppy would have been a better gambler, he could have gotten more money and then had more power in the school, even though he comes from a poor family. Like, it all was on your shoulders, which, by the way, would be horrible if I was a high schooler and watching this. It would fuck me up, because that is way too much pressure. Right. But, like, yeah, so the idea that they're even going into backstory in the manga just sounds unnecessary. Right. Like, of course you're influenced by where you come from, But Kakegurui is all about like, but this is what you do where you are now.
Yeah.
This is who you choose to be in this moment.
Right.
Yeah.
So the Netflix series, right, did a great job of keeping it thematic. It almost seems symbolic rather than
completely.
like, right, the characters themselves are super like allegories, right? Like allegories.
Oh, yeah.
Like Yumiko is the demon, is the devil
Completely.
to Hirari's god figure, right?
Yes.
And then, but then the manga doesn't do that. The manga just keeps on going. And then, yeah, the backstories humanize the characters,
right?
But they lose a lot of like the essence of the symbolism that they represent, right?
Yeah.
So Yumiko becomes more human. Hirari becomes more human, and right. In its own way, it's actually interesting, but we'll have to see with the second season of the Netflix series.
Yeah. Okay. Because my immediate thought process was like, I don't need him to be human.
Right. You kind of like them as these like god figures that come in and like, I mean, not that it's a bad thing either. You're not simplifying these characters because you already have all these other female characters,
right? Completely,
who are human, who do have backstories,
right. But I don't necessarily know if I need my demon and my god figure humanized when ultimately that is what they're standing in for, right?
It seems like they're revealing that in the manga.
Right. I don't really need that. Because the reason why they work as both warning and inspiration is because they are so othered. They're not very human. Right? Like the president is magically always like put together with her glowy like blue eyes and blue lipstick. Right? And like Yumiko. Oh, please, no. We're not doing that cosplay. And then, like, Yumiko's going around with her, like, glowy red eyes and perfectly straight black hair. Like, no matter what she does, it's perfect, right? No matter where she is, her uniform is clean. Like, there's an otherness to them that puts them above just being human. Right. But that's also why they serve as such great, like, warnings and complex figures. Right. So I don't know if I need them to be human.
Right. I would love to have the manga explore them as these kind of ethereal figures.
Exactly. What does that mean for them being those beings?
Right. And so the manga, I think, I don't know, season 2 might disappoint you just slightly. Because they do go off track of what the first series did. The first season did. Yeah.
So let me ask, is the manga complete?
It is not. It's still ongoing.
So it's ongoing.
Right.
Okay. That's interesting.
I believe it might be on a hiatus right now.
Okay.
Right. Actually, the story itself is written. I'm not sure who it's by, but the artist is. They have done previous series that focuses on lesbian characters.
Oh, interesting!
Yeah, it's awesome. Actually, apparently, the story that the artist drew for previously was really close to Utena.
Okay.
And so the whole story about there being a female knight that like saves a female damsel, you know.
Definitely.
Like, it was a lot of that. And so I think they specifically chose that artist to draw for Kakegurui because it's so...
That makes sense.
It's so obviously... It's so, you know...
It's so gay.
It is so gay.
It's so
Anyone who denies that is...
I need you to right. Like, let me sit down. I'll itemize it for you.
Right.
It's so gay. Yeah, but I also think that that's a great thing. I don't think it's subtle.
No, not at all.
I like that it's not subtle. Like, also, once again, there's literally a scene where a character masturbates to the picture of another female on her phone.
Right.
Like, and then it ends with her doing that. It's one of the closing scenes of the series. So if you're going to sit there and be like, oh, I think it's a understated lesbianism, like, no, it's not. It's gay as fuck. Right? Which I think is a great aspect of it.
God, it was gay. It was existential. It was high energy. It was just everything that I loved about anything. Yeah.
No, Kakegurui is amazing. If you're listening to this and you have not watched it, please give it a try. It can be a lot, but it's a lot in the best way that a show can be intense. If you watched Devilman Crybaby, and you saw it and you thought that only the women were sexualized and made to be demons, which we'll do a separate episode about that. This is not like that, even though they recommend this show based on the fact that you watched Devilman Crybaby.
Did they do that to you on Netflix?
Yeah, that's how I got it.
It popped up.
Because they said, because you watched Devilman Crybaby, we recommend Kakegurui.
That's gonna work. That's some bad algorithm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's some shitty algorithms.
Right.
Yeah, because I finished Devilman Crybaby and I was like, what the fuck? I'm mad.
Okay, that's another episode.
Once again, that's another episode. Yeah, we'll talk about that another episode.
If you want to invite me as a guest for that one,
by all means, we'll definitely get into the existentialism about that one.
And
the lack of feminism.
Right.
So, yeah, if you haven't watched Kakegurui, check it out. It's amazing. Check it out in some form, I guess. Like, I would definitely recommend the anime. Like, you're familiar with the anime and
The manga.
The manga. So
I super recommend the anime.
Okay.
I think the anime does a really great job. If you're looking for like a one-shot series that concludes on a great note, I would say Kakegurui anime.
Okay.
If you're looking for something to kind of follow consistently on a longer, more complex storyline,
Right.
I would say the manga is the way to go.
Okay, that's an excellent way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're looking for excellence, watch the anime.
Yes. Yes, exactly. It's kind of like you know how sometimes movies have a TV series afterwards. So the movies are awesome already, but the TV series kind of take it too much. Like you know, it's like really unnecessary.
Yes.
Yeah. It's kind of like the manga is kind of a TV series.
All right. Yeah. I'll watch the live action show and I'll tweet out what I think about it, but I'm pretty sure 2 episodes in, yeah, the anime is better. Like I said, you just can't capture that magical surrealism in live action the way that you can in anime. Like that art, it does something special. Yeah.
Right.
All right. So, anything else you want to say about Kakegurui before we wrap up?
No.
Okay.
I mean, we pretty much nailed everything.
Yeah, I think we did.
Horny, gay, gambling, existential, amazing.
Feminist anime.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm glad we agreed on the feminist.
Yeah, I am
agree.
too, actually. Because I've been like, so we're going to have a fight it out.
Yeah. No, but we didn't even fight. We were just like, agreeing.
Yeah, awesome. All right, well, that's all the wonders I have to share with you today. I hope you enjoyed our discussion of Kakegurui. Watch the anime. If you have any thoughts on it, let me know. Thank you again to my guest, Hikazio. Hika. To continue the discussion, you can find me on Twitter at Tanagra, GGNOC. And where can they find you, Hika, if you want to put your information out?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Hikazio, Hikazio.
Thank you for spelling it. I just assume everybody will know, but you're right. All right. For all you Android users, you can find us on Anchor and RadioPublic. And for all you iThings users, you can listen to us on iTunes and Overcast. You can also listen to us while watching an awesome slideshow on YouTube. So leave us a message on some platform. Thanks for joining. Make choices and don't frolic it up. Bye.